Playground.
Hooray!
This is the Deron Harris Podcast. Here's your host, Deron Harris.
Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back to the Deron Harris Podcast. I am your host, Deron Harris. Today, I'm talking about a subject that might be kind of hard for some to listen to, but I think we need to keep things in a certain perspective. It's hard to imagine that not so many years ago that they used to lynch black people in this country. And it was a big deal. It was like a huge thing. It was a thing that people did. People actually went to watch these things. They went and they would take lunch, and it was a big deal where they would go out and watch a public execution of black people. And that was a practice that was done here in the South and other places all the way up until not so terribly long ago. So my question is, and my subject today is, some of these photos that I see of these lynchings, I see people in these photos, like people that were there. And in these photos, I see children. Some of these children. And my question is where are these children today? Where are these children today? Where are these people today? Who are they? Who are they in your society? Do we know? I mean, there were a lot of photographs taken. They took a lot of pictures. Are some of those photographs still around in their households? Do they share those photographs with their friends, family members? It's hard to imagine, like I said, that at one point in our country, that this was a tolerated thing, a permitted thing. Then again, so was slavery. And I believe that this and the Tulsa Race Massacre and all the other massacres and all the drowned towns and sundown towns as well, I believe that that is a direct retaliation on the abolition of slavery. I mean, think about it. There are so many people in the South that are so upset about the outcome of the Civil War. They just are. I've said it before on my podcast before. I live in a town that's like a town over, really, from one of the battlefields of the Civil War, which the South actually had won the battle. And I talk about that a lot. I don't want to dig deeper into that, but I guess my curiosity is, where are these people? Where are these people who participated in the lynchings of black people? Are they city councilmen now? The mayor, perhaps? Chief of police, maybe? Tax collector? District attorney? Who are these people in our society today? Because make no mistake about it, folks, they are among us. those same people who sat there and ate sandwiches with their families and drank lemonade and cheered as the life was being choked out of another human being. I think about that sometimes, especially where I live. Where I live, I guess they are tolerant. That's a good word to use. Tolerant, I believe, would be a good word to use in this situation, because that's kind of what it feels like. Like they just tolerate us. You see people in store and you wave, and sometimes they look right through you, or they look at you with such disdain. And they wave anyway. They don't want anything to do with us. They're not so easy to spot because, like I said, today is 2023. You have to adapt to the times. And that includes racism. It really does. That includes racism. Some of these policies that were made back in those days when they were lynching black citizens, some of those policies still stand today. Believe it or not. In some of these southern states, some of these Confederate states, if you will, some of that stuff still exists. I wish it didn't. Today is a very somber podcast, folks. But like I said, it's something that crosses my mind on a regular basis. I'm talking regularly. Do I come across this? Sometimes I wonder, man, if these people are people that I interact with on a daily basis. Maybe not you, but maybe your grandfather was one of the men in the photograph standing next to two dead bodies. Maybe he's got you standing in the photograph with him. Would you tell anybody that? Would you say that to anybody at work? Would you tell your pastor? Would you brag about it in private? Would you cry every night? Horrified. I think about you too. I think about you too because, like I said, folks, rest assured, these people are in our society today. Now, with all that being said, I'm not saying that all of the people who attended these things were bad. I'm going to say a good majority. I'll say that. But I'll also say that there was quite a few people who were probably appalled by it and very dismayed and stood in opposition. Some of those people that were there were brought against their will by their elders. Some people used these acts to indoctrinate future generations of racists who believe now to this day that all black people deserve this fate. Sometimes my podcasts are quite different, folks. I don't always laugh and joke around. I do like to hit the nail on the head if I can, but I do also talk about things that I feel strongly about, and this is one of those things. I do feel strongly about this because I can't help but know. I can't help but understand and realize, like I said a moment ago, that these people walk among us. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everybody that was brought there against their will. I'm sorry for everybody who protested them to no avail. I'm sorry you had to be there. I'm sorry you had to witness that. But for all the people who stand there smiling, I hope you burn in hell. I hope you burn in hell. I really do. And let me make this clear, though. I don't hate you. I do not hate you. I feel sorry for you. I do feel sorry for you. Because you are that way. And that's clearly just the worst disease that you could ever have, is the disease of racism. And that, my friends, is what consumes you, is your hatred. Your hatred consumes you, and it reinforces your beliefs. And you tie all that and stand right behind the Word of God and promote it to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. And it's perpetuated, and it doesn't go away. I'm going to take a break. I need a couple of minutes. And when I come back, we'll talk more about this. This is the Deron Harris Podcast.
IRS. 3 letters that strike fear into everyone, and for a good reason. The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth, and being in debt to the IRS can have serious consequences. Oftentimes, it begins with the IRS sending you a collection letter, and then escalates. And before you know it, they're garnishing your paychecks, seizing your bank accounts. Even your home or business could be at risk. But thankfully, there's Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 most trusted tax relief firm. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their tax professionals have the expertise and experience to help you put your tax debt to rest. Call now and get your free consultation today.
Call 800-804-6544. 800-804-6544. 800-804-6544.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Now, back to the Deron Harris Podcast.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the program. I'm Deron Harris. Today we're talking about the descendants of the people who attended the lynchings in America. Lynchings, I thought, actually ended a lot longer ago than I initially thought. But it turns out that the last lynching in Mobile, Alabama, this was in Mobile, Alabama, was on March 21st, 1981. A 19-year-old black man named Michael Donald was beaten and tortured and hung from a tree. And that was in 1981. That wasn't that far removed from me. To give you a little perspective on this, my high school graduation is in a few days, and I graduated high school in 1988. That's not that long. That's not that distant. So, what do we do? What do we do? The answer to that question is simple. We don't do anything. We don't do anything. We keep doing the same thing that we're doing every day. Is thriving. Keep doing the same thing that makes you unique every day. Because at the end of the day, that's what it was all about. Is trying to scare us and put us in our place, or what they deem is our place. I'm sorry, folks. Sometimes I just get lost. I'm over here just thinking about what some of these men must have felt. What some of these children that attended these lynchings, what they must have felt. Especially for like the first time. The first time. How do you break that to your family? How do you tell your family that we're going to watch this human being be killed in public? Who are the law enforcement officers? that were there that allowed this to happen? How many of them brought their children? How many of their children hold public office, like sheriff? Who knows? How many of these people suit up every day in a robe and sit and pass down judgment? Those are the people. Okay? Those are the people. Those are the people that we are fighting. Those are the institutions that we are fighting to break down. Those are the ideologies that we are here to confront, to put in its place, which is no place. I don't hate. I'm not a hateful person. I hate the actions of people. Actions are learned behaviors. Those are learned. That is a learned behavior. And if you go to enough of them, eventually it's indoctrinated into you. Stay woke, friends. Stay woke. That's all I can really say. I don't anticipate this, and I didn't anticipate this to be a very long podcast at all today, because it is definitely something that bothers me. It bothers me terribly. It bothers me beyond what I could even imagine for myself. I don't know why I'm consumed with this, but I get it. Maybe it's because, what I feel for the families of those victims. And somehow, I don't know, this is me trying to maybe seek justice or provide some closure or more information. I don't know. Maybe a different perspective on people. I don't know, folks. I just know that there were people that were there that are still alive today. And it is not that far removed. And those people, not only that, those people were allowed to get away with it. And in some cases, it was local law enforcement who contributed. Where are those people now? What are those people doing now? Are they grandpas sitting there with their little granddaughters on their laps, laughing, telling all the family stories except for those? Is that where you are? Are you the pastor of a church where are you at? What are you doing now? I would absolutely love to be a fly on the wall in any one of these people's houses. Any one of these households where these people shouldered up the courage, because that's really what it was, the courage and the balls to go out and wrangle another person for the sole purpose of A, entertainment, and B, just flat out murder. Are you the guy down at the bank that's giving home loans? Is that you? Was that your granddad? You get what I'm saying? It's a hard subject. And I know I've probably pissed off a lot of listeners with this episode. The last episode was kind of crazy too. The last two episodes were kind of crazy, but I think that this episode is kind of crazy too. It's also kind of tied together in a weird kind of way because a lot of people, they did this still. I mean, they do this stuff on Saturday night and Sunday morning go to church and sing in the choir. While another family across town, or families across town, grieve. And they are in such pain and anguish, and there is no closure, and they are powerless to do anything. How powerless it must feel to know the people who did this and still not being able to do anything about it. And make no mistake about it, folks, some of these people on the other side, they're still alive too. They experienced the other side. They experienced their brothers and their fathers and uncles, cousins, friends. They experienced all of their lives being cut short for the sake of entertainment. By way of hatred. Yeah. Very, very, very heavy subject for me today. But I guess I was due one. And like I said, I have another podcast that this probably would have been more appropriate for. But like I said, I wanted to do it on this podcast because I believe that it may reach more people. And more people means more consciousness. And that is essentially what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to raise awareness and also raise consciousness about some of these things. I know that our everyday lives put heavy demands on us. We bounce around from here to there. We got to go to the grocery store after we get off of work. And from there, we make dinner. And after dinner, we got to work out, et cetera, et cetera. Got to put the kids to bed. But we need to be aware of these things. Because I'll be honest with you, folks, the lynchings haven't stopped. Okay? Let's just be clear. They haven't stopped. They have just taken on different form. Remember, you have to adapt. You have to adapt. You have to have refined racism now. Subtle. Legitimate. That is a very deliberate crutch word, folks, and I put it there on purpose because really, like, I it bothers the shit out of me. And the reason I talk about it, I guess, is because I'm hurt by it. I'm hurt by it. And that's really what the long and short of it is I am deeply hurt by this. Because, man, we could have such a great place to be. This could be such a great place. I mean, it really could be what they said it should be. It really could be. But it will never be because of the way that it came to be. And that's just the facts. I mean, it didn't even start with black people. It started with the Indians back before when they came and took this place. That's where it started. That was the beginning of the end. That was the beginning of the end. And now here we are in today's society where people can say what they want, but they can't say what they want. They can do what they want, but they can't do what they want. If you get what I mean. Some of you might be like, well, that's some cryptic shit, but I don't. I just think that sometimes the things that, I mean, it is very obvious, and it is becoming more and more prevalent and more obvious that the things that white folks benefit from, black folks don't benefit from that. It is obvious, and it is extremely deliberate. And that is obvious. That is the most shocking and appalling thing to me these days, is how deliberate it is. How right in your face it is. Right in your face. They hate you right to your face. They pass laws showing how much they actually hate you and me. They got no love for me. Yeah, I find it to be sad. I just do. I'm sorry. I don't know, folks. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what can be done about it. I thought I had the solutions. I really don't know, because it's just on autopilot now. It's on autopilot now. There's so many things on autopilot now. Black people are just killing the shit out of each other. That's on autopilot. And racism. It's just on autopilot. It's just something that's always going to be here. It just is. I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Deron Harris Podcast. I'm sorry, folks, that today was a little somber, but maybe I shouldn't read the material that I read sometimes because it does make me feel a particular way. And I talk about how I feel. I talk about how I feel about these things. And sometimes the things are difficult. Other times it's goofy. My podcast can be goofy from time to time, but for the most part, it's pretty serious. I wish I could be goofy, man. I really wish I could just pull that mask down over my face, especially being a comedian. I wish I could just pull that mask down over my face where shit doesn't matter. Where shit just doesn't matter. I wish I could do that. I just can't do that, where I could just go and do other shit and not pay any attention at all to this. I can't do it. I don't know how others do. Because I don't know, man. there needs to come some reckoning. Something needs to, this needs to come to a head, a boiling point, and there needs to be, I'm not saying anything violent, but there needs to be a debate, a standoff, and say, listen, are we going to try and eradicate this out of this country, or are we just going to allow this to stand? Are we going to allow racism to permeate and teach generation after generation after generation what it is to be a racist? And that's for both sides, not just the white side, not just the black side even. That's for all sides. That is for all sides. Are we going to continue to promote and teach racism to our children? Are we going to do that? That was one of the most impactful photographs or series of photographs that I've ever seen in my life, was children attending lynchings, learning how to be racist to lethal proportions. What are you teaching them? What are you teaching them? I want to thank my mother and my father for being the best parents. I want to thank my wife for being the best wife she can be. I want to thank my best friend and producer for encouraging me to do my podcast or do this podcast. Maybe not this particular podcast, but my podcast in general. I want to thank Gentry Thomas for giving me the opportunity to do my podcast. I know some of the things can be heavy. I'm not sure if Gentry even listens. Crutch word. Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin everybody's day. I want to thank you guys for listening to me. I really do. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, especially the people who tune in every week. If you tune in every week to listen to me, man, shout out to you. Thanks for all the new listeners. Hopefully you'll come back and listen. Hopefully this podcast won't run you off. Maybe it might, probably will. But I got to talk about it. I have to talk about the things that are on my mind. I got to talk about these things that are on my plate, the things that I think about, the things that bother me, the things that drive me, the things that I am passionate about, the things that I question. I have to talk about these things. And I do it every week. And at first, I guess I cared about people listening. And after a while, I didn't care so much about that and started caring more about the talk therapy that I was getting out of it. Which reminds me, I forgot to do my mental health check this week, and I hope that everybody's mental health was good. I really do. Mine, because of the air conditioner situation, is waiting kind of thin, but my wife tells me that the part for our air conditioner should be here soon, so I'll be able to fix the AC in my coach, and we'll get back to RV living. But I just want to tell everybody that I love you all. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks for putting up with it. I couldn't have done it without any of you. All the people that I mentioned, every person that I mentioned, I couldn't have done this, and I'm glad and happy to thank you all every week for the opportunity that I get to share my thoughts and feelings with people, and to just really, at the end of the day, get some things off my chest. Because really, that's what I should rename it. This is Getting Shit Off Your Chest with Deron Harris. Because that's really what I do, is I use this forum to really kind of get my frustrations and my anger off my chest, man. And today, I guess I just woke up in a bad mood about this. I just woke up with my stomach in knots about this situation, about just the fact that this is a reality, that these people are in our society today. We're not that removed from that. We're not that removed from this. And it's closer than we think. We think it was so long ago, and it's not. And those people are still here, man. Some of those people are still here around in our society today. So think about that, folks. The next time you're walking around the streets, next time you go to the bank or church or anywhere you go, just remember that some of these people attended some of these things on purpose. Some of them were brought against their will. But either way, they're the ones who have to live with it. This has been the Deron Harris Podcast. Thanks for listening. Peace.
You've been listening to the Deron Harris Podcast. Subscribe to the show, give a good rating, and everything you need to know is at DeronHarris.com.